We're building more than a business. We're building the communities that we live in, and we're changing the world around us. And so I think it's important that we think not just about the dollars and the ROI and that kind of thing.
In this process, we're just finding people who have the same values. Like you said, it doesn't matter their skin color, their gender, or anything like that. All that matters is that I'm finding people who will be a great cultural fit and that will love working together.
Coming back around, Joel, to talking about hiring fully developed people, in your guys' experience, how many times, like, let's talk numbers here, how many times has that worked?
Well, we're going to find out, because I just made a hire, somebody that I would say is fairly developed. Like,
Okay.
Obviously, and all of us have more development potential.
Sure.
I think we're all...
But coming in carrying a chunk of weight, or are the expectations there?
Yeah. So this person, though, worked with us on just a short-term contract basis like 3 years ago, and that was the introduction. And so I know them well.
Okay.
And so it's not a cold hire, but they definitely are coming in carrying a lot. And so I sought them out.
Okay.
Rather than them coming to me for an interview. So it's a bit of a different scenario.
Sure.
But other than them, every person that I've hired to this point, I had questions about, like, is this going to work? We're going to have to see. There was nobody else that I've hired along the way that I just knew right out the gate for sure this is going to be amazing.
What about you, Josh?
Well, in terms of experience, like
someone
who
an
comes
experienced tradesman that you hire that's been trained and has the skill set, etc.
Okay, so 12-ish years of doing this. I've interviewed hundreds of people, hired definitely over 100 people. Primarily always looking for young people to train.
Yeah.
I have tried out probably 10 to 20 experienced roofers.
Yeah.
And as of this day, not one of them still works with me. And I think it's just because we do have a very unique business model. And when guys go in, because we hold an ultra high, like almost unrealistic standard that when you hire and train from new, you can push those standards onto these young guys.
Right.
But when you bring in a typical tradesman who's cursing and swearing, smoking, throwing his cigarette butts everywhere, and you're just like, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that. It's a real hard mindset change because they're comfortable being that person.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're trying to change who they are. And then quality issues. And actually, in my company, in Prince George, I don't have a single experienced worker who's ever made it more than 1 or 2 years with me.
Interesting.
In Nanaimo right now, I have a young worker who's absolutely killing it with us, who he came over with a little bit of experience from another company.
Okay.
But only a year or two where he was just starting to, so he didn't come with a bunch of bad habits.
Right.
And just loved our mindset. Our values clearly align with him.
Right.
He's super driven. So he's actually the only active member of, actually 2 guys on the island are 2 members of the company who I hired that had previous experience, who are still sticking around. But it's very rare because someone's got to come out of their old setting and their old way of doing things and mold into your way of doing things. And that's much harder to create that change, I find, than when you just hire a young worker. And it's a bigger risk, and you got to train and invest into them more up front. And a lot of the times you're going to lose because they're going to lose motivation or just understand this isn't for them.
Yeah.
To me, that's super worth it.
Right.
It's super worth that, rather than trying to bring in experienced guys who can just get on the tools and make you money right away, because that cultural mindset shift, it just, in my experience, I've had very little success with it.
I've had one experience in all my hiring back when I ran a cabinet shop years ago, where I had a recommend of a very skilled tradesman coming out of Calgary, so out of a different city completely. And I was super leery because I'm just like, man, I just don't know. Like hiring experienced people it's tricky for all the reasons that you've just stated. And I remember talking to this guy's former boss and that he was leaving, and the guy's like, you're an idiot if you don't hire this guy. Like don't even like you. He said it stronger. He's just like, he's like, this is the guy you want to hire. And when he came in, I sent my then manager out to inspect his first work because it was a working interview. And the manager came back and he was just shaking his head. He's like, I had no idea it could be that good. He's like, I just had no idea. So then I'm like, okay, well, this is weird because I didn't expect this. I went in with low expectation. And he just turned out to be, like, literally to this day, just one of the best, most solid tradesmen I've ever known. Just unbelievably. I learned so much from him. He would go backwards to go forwards all the time, which really frustrated me at first because we were dealing with expensive stuff, with solid surface countertops and that kind of stuff. And he would spend a day making a jig if we hadn't used a particular sink before. And it would drive me crazy. I'm like, how is this working? And then when he'd actually go to do the install, it was flawless. It was beautiful. It was quick. And his demeanor, like the customers liked him. He was quiet. He did his job well. And I mean, and it was stunning. So it proved to me that it can happen. I had this, and I could be wrong about this, but in my personal experience, it's typically with someone coming from out of town. And I've had this happen a couple other times with people that have worked with me for a season that came in experienced and were working with me to transition, etc. And they worked out extremely well as well, with the understanding that it was a transitionary thing for them.
Yeah.
But typically with them coming from out of town, and my rationale is pretty simple. It's like if people are leaving their place of employment within your town from a competitive company, from a competitor, number one, this is all of our ego coming out, but number one, we like to think our companies are better than our competitors. And so I think we have a certain bias to people that have worked for our competitors thinking, well, we're going to have to teach them some things. Yeah. Whether we're right or wrong, okay, but this is I think our bias. I think we would all agree on that. We want to be better, more particular, more detailed, more caring than our competitors. That's part of our thing. So I think there's that. And then there's also, I think, a level of discontent that's hard to deal with. If someone's seeking something else and thinking that you're, like, I always look at, we have animals on our property and like the grass is literally greener on the other side of the fence. Like animals simply always chew through the fence. Like that is what, I don't know why. And if you have someone that comes into your organization with that mentality that something better is out there, you are that better thing when they transition. Yeah. But then as soon as they become used to you and everything around you, then all of a sudden the next thing is greener. And that's a hard thing to deal with.
But that goes back to what we were saying earlier about like one of the primary things you're looking for in an interview or through the process is this person looking out for themselves? Is that their motivator? Yes. Or are they looking for something that they can be a part of, a team that they can contribute to the guys around them, a company that they can be a part of in its growth strategy? Yeah. Like that's one of the primary things you got to look for is somebody who's looking beyond just filling a paycheck.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think just filling out this thought about people coming from other cities, you can call their like current or just previous employer and get a real good response from that employer because this person's moving. So and
you're not a competitor.
They're not a competitor. Yeah. So to me, that's also a huge part of this process. Like it's extremely hard to call your competitor. Like you don't. I've never called a competitor to get an interview for someone. Like I just haven't done that because it's an awkward thing. It's like, what, you're stealing my guy? Like sometimes there's all of this kind of stuff that can go on within that scenario that can be very awkward and just not meaningful. I know that in real estate, when we are interviewing tenants, we never call the person that they were just occupying, like the building they were just occupying, that landlord ever. We always call two back. We ask for two referrals. We ask for the one that they were just at because it just seems normal, but we never call them because they could be motivated to get rid of this tenant. But the person that was previous has, like, they are no longer invested. So
Yeah.
it's like, they'll be
Yeah,
honest.
that's good.
Yeah.
Smart.
That's super interesting. So what we're saying is that in this process of hiring well, faith is a component.
Hmm.
Like, you got to have some faith that the person that you're hiring has potential and that potential can be realized.
Yeah.
Okay. I like it. Now let's talk a little bit around casting a net. Where do you look for employees? And in fairness, we're in a small community, smallish, 80 to 100,000, depending on how big a chunk of our area you want to talk about. And so we have a lot of relationship and a lot of people that we either know or know someone who knows. Like, you don't have to, what do they say? The 7 steps to Kevin Bacon. Like, in our town, it's like 2 steps. Like, if I don't know someone, I know someone who knows that person.
Yeah, pretty
like, that's
close.
pretty much how it is.
Yeah.
Almost. We don't always dig for that, but that's pretty much how it is. So we appreciate that where we're at is slightly different than if you live in a large city and the pool is almost infinite. So we get that. But let's talk about casting a net and what has worked and what has not worked for you guys.
Yeah, I think my experience probably is not a good comparison to a large center, because I've been able to operate fairly relationally when I'm looking for people. Typically, I start with, like, I got a set of people in my life that I'll go to and I'll say, hey, I'm looking to fill this position. Do you have any recommends? Because I have a much higher degree of confidence in a referral or a recommendation from somebody that I trust than from a hiring agency or referral just on a piece of paper or something like that. And so I start there. I start by sifting my relational network and going, hey, anybody that you think I should consider.
Yeah.
And for the most part, since we've started, I've been able to find all of the people that I've wanted through that process. So I have never used a hiring agency. I've never filtered through resumes on an online network or anything like that. I've either had a set of resumes from people who've come in the door, or I've been able to find people through our network. And I love hiring people from other trades companies. And so, for example, one of the guys that I hired was from Josh, and it was a guy who was struggling with his current work situation at Ridgeline, but not because he wasn't a good worker. He was a fantastic guy, but there just wasn't a fit. And so there's an opportunity in networking with other trades companies to find those kind of a people where it's like, here's a high caliber individual who's in the wrong position. And then making that switch in this case was a gift to Ridgeline and was also a gift to me.
Right.
Because it alleviated something that they weren't sure what to do with, because this guy was a great guy.
Yeah.
And it gave me a person that I could feel really confident in.
Right.
Because of the relationship.
Yeah.
And so I think I would always start with that relational network. I think depending on the position, there's some like higher level strategic positions where you're looking for a really particular caliber of person with a really particular skill set. Okay.
Yeah.
Then your relational network may not be the best place.
Right.
Because it's too small of a pool.
Right.
And then you gotta go far.
Yeah.
Potentially. But I think often in the trades companies, if you're looking for tradespeople, then trust and character are two of the key things. It's that growth mindset, the willingness to learn, and the character of the person. Those are the things that I'm looking for most, and those are far easier to determine through a relational connection than through a piece of paper or a hiring network or any of those kinds of things.
Right.
Yeah, it's true.
You can look for skill sets, you can look for experience really easily through some online platform.
Sure.
But character, trustworthiness, growth mindset, those are much harder to determine through a cold connection like that.
Yeah, it's very true. I personally think it's a lot to do with the size of your business. So, because I've kind of gone through quite a few of the phases with my company.
Yeah.
And when I started the company in the first 5 years, probably around where you guys still are now with your company, I didn't ever have to look for people. It was just, my network, school, church,
Yeah.
anyone in my personal life, just had a fairly large network in the community. And I really started my company with people strictly from, family, friends, and communities I'm a part of. In my history with hiring, once my company grew past a point where I couldn't just rely on my own network, which for me, I found as soon as I was passing even 5 to 10 people,
Right.
now you got to start leaning on different tactics to cast your net.
Yeah.
And so there's a couple major components to that. And one of the things that we're really leaning into now, especially hitting different markets. And for the record, when you're expanding into a new market, you have almost no network to hire out of, which was a really, if anything, it was the biggest learning curve of not only is it, wow, like we don't know people to go do their jobs for them.
Yeah.
You're literally having strangers hire you from the get-go, but also your hiring pool is non-existent. You have to everything's cold.
Yeah.
Cold customers, cold interviewees,
Cold coffee.
Yeah. It's
No,
summer.
we would never tolerate that.
So, like for us, the biggest thing we do now is like we have our procedures. We've used Indeed for years now, and you can use it pretty good to dumb down the amount of applicants you get. You can vet it with questions to automatically eliminate applicants.
Okay, this is Indeed.
Yeah,
Okay.
and a lot of the online software will do that for you. And we've hired a lot of our staff off Indeed. One of my best up and coming guys right now is from Indeed.
Okay.
And just so it's possible. I mean, there's great young workers out there, but the next level is past just going through Indeed that we're kind of experiencing this phase of growth is one we're actually putting a focus on branding our company.
Okay.
We're marketing not just for customers to hire us,
Yeah.
but we're marketing and branding ourselves that we want to be a company that not only do people want to hire us, but we want to be a company and show our values so that people with those same values will be like, hey, I want to work for that company. And then they apply. And then the next step, I've looked into the next step. We're not quite big enough for it, but the new AI software out there takes something like Indeed and just puts it on steroids where it automatically vets. It gives you all the data based on their application. It gets them to do a video interview before you even make contact with them.
Wow.
It rates their potential of so the program I looked at was called Who Hire, and it's expensive like anything is, but it for the subscription fee it just doesn't justify how much hiring I do.
Right.
But that software takes all of the applicants' information and it scores them on things like longevity, like retention, how long they're going to be around, growth mindset, and you can put into it, I'm looking for somebody short term with these attributes. I'm looking for somebody long term with these attributes, and it'll score them for you and really help with that process. But it's a bit of an investment in onboarding and setup to do. So for the larger companies, I think we'll get there one day where we'll need that.
Right. I was thinking as you guys were chatting about the relational side of things is that is a huge pro most of the time, but it can also be a con. Like you can have a family of people that's not known for hard work or teachability, but you can have an outlier in that family who is, just ready to be different.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Yeah.
And so, and even like more nuanced is you can have a family of very diligent type people that are like, I think like one of your current hires, the son is quite different than the father, not in the fact that they care and are hardworking, etc., but just what he wants to do with his life.
Yeah.
And so those are things that I think can be like, sometimes I feel like we can disqualify certain people automatically just like that, just like, yeah, that's not going to work, just because we know their family. And I think that that's a caution because and I think interestingly, like there are people that we find it hard to imagine them being a success in whatever field we're in. And I think that can, and I'm not sure how to exactly prevent that from happening other than being sure to keep a really open mind. Like just being sure to say, hey, you know, like we are part of families, but we're also individuals, and there are people that are worth consideration that may not appear like, and I'm not sure. And again, like this is, I don't know where AI will take this. Like I'm not sure how well AI will do in people who don't have a job history. Like I'm not sure how that they will handle that. And I think that there will always be a certain amount of like personal vetting that we have to do when it comes to casting a net. Like where are we looking and how do we evaluate the people coming in?
Well, and I think this is a piece, and different people will take this different ways depending on where you're at personally in terms of faith. But for me as a Christian, I think I'm asking an additional set of questions that not everybody is going to ask or want to ask.
Sure.
In that when I'm connecting with a person or even reading a resume, I'm asking, God, is this somebody you want me to do something with?
Right.
And I've had situations where, and this is specific to me in my faith background, but I've had situations where I've felt like God wanted me to work with a person, even though on paper and even in our personal connection, I would have probably defaulted not to.
Sure.
And this is just a reality of life is like you were saying before. I think for me, I feel it's really important to break out of this mindset of everything is about what I can gain.
Right.
Because some things in life are just about what you can give.
Yeah.
And
good.
there are situations where a hire maybe isn't the best move for a company, but it's what that person needs. And sometimes we make sacrifices. And I think, we got to build, at the end of the day, our businesses have to make money. Otherwise we don't have a business. We can't do anything.
Yeah.
But it's not always about, am I going to get this level of return on investment if I work with this person and it's got to meet this minimum threshold. I think how I want to be as a person is I want to think also about what can I give? And not just what can I gain? So those are more rare. That's very, very niche moments where I've felt those things. But we're building more than a business. We're building the communities that we live in, and we're changing the world around us. And so I think it's important that we think not just about the dollars and the ROI and that kind of thing.
It's true. I want to ask you guys what your thoughts are around diversity hiring. I don't even know what all the acronyms are these days. There seems to a guy my age can't keep up with this all, but what are your thoughts around that? It's a cultural trend or it's something that's being talked about. What are you guys' thoughts?
My default is, well, it ties into a bunch of the things I just said, is the things that I'm looking for are not what gender are you, what skin color are you, what ethnic background. To me, it's about the character of the person.
Right.
It's about the teachability and growth mindset. And so that's where I go in terms of considering or not considering a person. And I do think that the reality of our world is that there are biases. There are stereotypes that are both sometimes helpful and sometimes unhelpful. But we live in a world where those things are real. And anybody who tries to pretend like that's not a thing, or that we could live in a world where that's not a thing, I'm not convinced. I think we got to work with the messiness of the world that we live in and train ourselves to focus on the things that are really important and catch ourselves when we're maybe making bad assumptions or leaning towards a person for stupid reasons or like it. Yeah. It's really, I think, a self-awareness kind of thing. And, but I think just keep driving towards what's important rather than focusing on the things that I want to eliminate. Like, don't think that way. Don't think that way. Okay. What do we need to think? Yeah. And so for me, it's the character. Yeah. It's the teachability. It's the growth mindset. Yeah. And if the person's got that, man, I want to work with them. And if you're not willing to work with somebody who's got those things just because of gender, skin color, or something, I think, man, you're going to miss some of the best opportunities that come through your door.
Right.
And that's where I go.
So very similar, if not the exact same. The one thing I would caution on that, though, is I steer away from like feeling I have to have a diversity in my company. Because to me, business isn't about just hitting certain markers or numbers. It's about just finding people who you, like in this process, we're just finding people who have the same values. Like you said, doesn't matter their skin color or their gender or anything like that. All that matters is that I'm finding people who will be a great cultural fit and that will love working together. Yeah. Doesn't matter color or gender. That being said, I do work in an extremely physically demanding trade. Yeah. And I've been ridiculed online and stuff for not hiring women, even though I have hired women. Yeah. And I know they're out there, and I think it is worth saying, like, there are just certain, how we were built as human beings. Yeah. For my trade, it's more of a man's trade. Yeah. Not that women can't do it. Yeah. It's just far more rare. Yeah. So, but that being said, I'll still interview women. I've hired women. I've had girls come up and work with us for a season. Yeah. One of them was a rock climber, super strong. Yeah. And she did really well with her time with us. But I'm also very much recognizing that men are the primary workers in this trade. Yeah. And that's who I'm going to actively look for. Yeah. But that being said, when a girl comes along and wants to get up there with the boys and give her, like, I'm into it, but I'm not going to focus on finding that just to hit a diversity marker in my company. Yeah. It's like, if someone seeks us out and they apply all the time and they're like, I want to be a part of what you're doing. Yeah, absolutely. Let's give it a go. So
it's interesting. I spent a couple seasons tree planting, and tree planting is a Canadian, Northern Canadian particular tradition. And in BC, it's a huge deal. And tree planters live like old school hippies, basically, out in the middle of the bush. You're sleeping in tents. You're eating in a big tent, kind of like a wall tent, and it's rough and it's tough. But I know that out there, many of the crew leads actively sought women that wanted to work out there because they found that things just got out of hand if there was no women present. Because guys are out there for sometimes weeks at a time without seeing civilization. And there was something about having some girls on site that were working hard, that were part of the crew, that just kept the level of decency to a different place than it would go without them there. Yeah. And so, which is interesting to me because essentially they were doing diversity hires, but they were doing diversity hires not for the sake of diversity. Well, kind of. But more so for the health of their crew.
They weren't doing it to hit a number. No, they were doing it to build their culture.
Culture. And I think that what they found as well is that girls could do very well tree planting. Like, there's a certain physicality to it, but there's like, and my daughter works out in the bush, and she's like working bushwhacking through like crazy windfalls and stuff like that up the sides of mountains. And so and women can do this. In fact, in her particular career, there's a lot of women. And so, and what they found though is that if women started to outperform the men, it brought the entire level of the men up as well. So there's this little bit of competitiveness there where, if you have like a 5'0" girl that you would just doesn't look the part exactly, and all of a sudden is outperforming these like tough guys, it does something.
Oh yeah.
And it's actually really beautiful because there's like this synergy. And I think that this is one of the things that we haven't really touched on precisely, but we kind of have in a roundabout way, is that what we're looking for on our teams is synergy. We're looking to bring people in that are going to add a component. And I think this is the tricky part often, is that you can have someone that may not have the exact, like they may not work as hard as what you would love, like let's say in your trade, for example, but they bring a positivity and like everyone wants to work around them. And they are producing well, but they're not as driven a person. I mean, and I know people very well like this, that are highly sought after individuals to be part of a team, even though you would argue that they're partially carried by their team members when it comes to production. But they bring something else to the table, which is a bit of an intangible that just makes everybody's lives better. Yeah. And this is an exciting part about hiring, in my opinion, because it's not a science per se. Yeah. You find this person and it's like, and you're like, yeah, I'm not sure if they're going to be able to. I talked to someone who hired someone close to me recently, and they were like, yeah, we weren't 100% sure, but we're happy with the outcome. And it's like, and I know that the rationale is not all just about like one individual's dollars and cents. It's like, are we raising the bar? Is there something that they're bringing to the table? And let's be honest, like there's some people you just love working around. Yeah. You just want to be, and often they're the most productive, but not always. Sometimes they're just steady, they're dependable, and they just make you feel good inside. Yep. And I think there's huge value in that. And I think that also opens the door to a richer life. I'm a huge believer, and you touched on this, Joel, is cross-pollinating between trades. Yeah. Like, I think that some of the best thoughts, inventions, discoveries, ways of doing things come when people of different disciplines unite in a positive setting. And in that kind of like working alongside, all of a sudden things can start to like make sense that just didn't make sense before, if people are open, if people are not selfish about holding things in, but are open to discussing and making things better. So I think that these are some of the side benefits of hiring well. And and let's be honest, like hiring is hard. And if you're an emotional person who's empathetic, and we've touched on that, it can be a hard thing because you're like, man, I could disappoint someone. This may not work out. So there's a risk associated with it. But I believe what drives us more than profit, what drives us is that opportunity to create teams that have synergy, that have momentum, that build into each other, and then ultimately also into us and the customers we work for. And so before long, you're recognizing that, hey, this crew's making a difference in our community. Like this is not just like an inward looking endeavor. This is an outward looking endeavor that we're trying to achieve here. And when you have, and I think the reason that small business has been the driver of Western culture as a whole, like small business is what drives us. The big business, the numbers are impressive, but small business, the numbers of them are impressive. Yeah. And I think part of that reason is we're able to form teams that contribute to our communities in ways that big business just can't. Yeah. And that's super exciting.
Yeah. That's really good.
Hey, thank you so much for spending your time with us. This conversation isn't finished yet. Join us next week as we continue on into this conversation.